مؤسس آرت لاب سودان أو ما بين الهاتف. الفيلم الأول كان بالنسبة لي اسمه نفق، بيتكلم عن التروما اللي حصلت للشباب السوار بعد فض اعتصام القيادة. الفيلم الثاني اسمه لطفا، بيتكلم عن التروما برضو بتاعت الاف جي ام، ختان الإناث. الفيلم الثالث هو فيلم نساء الحرب، هو فيلم دوكيومنتري. مخرج لعدد من الفيديو كليب، وحاليا دي او بي في فيلم طويل اسمه مدنية، هو الآن معروض في بريطانيا أعتقد. شغوف بالأفلام، ما بقدر أعمل حاجة غير التصوير والأفلام بس. ده أنا، شكرا.
السلام عليكم، صباح الخير. أنا عباس الخير. تجربتي في المجال ده من مؤسسين قناة سودان بكرة وقناة نادوز. الآن بعمل في عدد كده من القنوات ومهتم بصناعة الأفلام من بدري شديد يعني. برضو مدرب في مجال الميديا واستخدامها. آخر فيلم أنتجته قبل سنة اللي هو لذكرى فض الاعتصام، اسمه الأمل بين الرماد.
Who's this over here? She hiding?
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Ramon. I like photographing. I just like taking pictures and I'm interested in cameras. Are you happy?
Thank you. And last but not least.
صباح الخير عليكم جميعا. أنا عبد الكريم نور الدين محمد، طالب في جامعة سنترال يونيفرسيتي، قاعد أدرس بالعلاقات الدولية. شكرا.
So one of our goals today, or one of our dreams today, everybody here has ideas. Some of you are further along the line in your storytelling careers. Some of you are just starting out. Some of you just have an idea. But our hope is that by the end of the day, you have had some time to work with that idea through conversations or just through engagement with the ideas that are presented. And by the end of the day, you have a path forward. And so I would invite you to think about trying to leave today with a next step for your project. I have 1,000 projects on my little computer back there that are just sitting there. And I look at them and they don't move, you know? And so moments like this can be places where we can just add a little acceleration, a little energy by connecting with others. So I invite you all to think about that and share that goal. And the second thing is, we have some amazing folks that are sharing their wisdom, but amongst the audience, we have incredible experts. You know, just sitting right next to you is someone that could help you out with your film, that could change your trajectory. So just think about that today as you engage in conversations. You know, what can you provide and offer to someone else? What can they provide and offer to you? How can you work together? And so just quickly to run down this schedule, which has been in flux until 10 minutes ago. We're going to watch Rupa's film, Suddenly TV, and it's a film about the revolution and the sit-in. It is really, really hard for a lot of people to watch, so feel free to not watch it, feel free to watch it, and feel free to leave, and feel free to give each other hugs, because it's beautiful, but it's also sad. So just wanted to give a warning for that. And then Rupa will talk about how she made the film, the nuts and bolts. How do you get money? How did she shoot it? How did she do post? We'll do a short session on that, and you can ask her any questions now and later. And then Patience will take us into a workshop short workshop around story and ideas. We are not having lunch today, by the way. We didn't have budget. We blew it on the dinner last night, I'm sorry. But they will be coming out with snacks, chapatis, and other things throughout the day. And we will have a dinner, an early dinner at 5:30. So if you do need to go out and grab something, go for it. But there should be enough to keep us going until 5:30. And sorry about that. So then, yeah, we'll have a short workshop, and then we will move into discussing quickly everybody's ideas. If you want to share what you are working on and what you need help with. And then we'll have a technical session with Snoopy and some members of Vajani Corps talking about mobile filmmaking, how you can make a film right now with your little phone camera. And then we have a session at 2:15 that will be in the middle of all that. That is around the People's Cinema, which is Film Clubs Towards Liberation. So it's about mobile cinema screenings. And we have a mobile cinema club coming from Bayali Refugee Camp who will be talking about their experience, as well as some folks from Nigeria and Port Sudan. And then we'll conclude with a kind of one-on-one sharing session. So we'll try to make space for people to come together and individually talk about ideas and say, hey, I have this idea. You want to produce it for me? Do you have this idea how I can get this grant? So we really want to make a space at the end of the day for us to get together and share those ideas. And then we'll have a small mental health break, possibly with Hope. And that will lead into dinner and an amazing DJ set.
And then you'll go to sleep. Okay, so I think we're now going to watch Suddenly TV again. As Trevor said, if you need to leave or if you've seen it before, feel free. I won't be offended. It's 18 minutes, and it's about the sit-in. June 3rd is not, you don't see June 3rd, but there is some violence. So thank you, and we'll talk afterwards.
السلام يلا ماشيين نجيب الحاجات دي دقيقة ما تشرط دقيقة نجيب السكين خلاص اصبر هاي من جوا البوز قدام ما تنساه بعد يا غالي البوز هنا الوصلة بتاع السماعة يلا قوم جاسم لك سماعة مريتو شوف منين يزول سريع جيبها من هنا بعد يلا غنى فجأة هنا فجأة تاج من هنا تسمعي guys بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحن اليوم في حلقة من حلقات الثورة، ونحن اليوم نتحدث عن الثورة. السلام عليكم. بس دايما ندعكم في قناة فجأة، دايما نجيب سبب مجيكم من الثورة دي شنو؟
أنا والله أحيي قناة فجأة وكل القنوات اللي هي مرابطة وقاعدة في الميدان هنا والله بصراحه كده انا زهقت ذاته قناه فجاه دي هي في الحقيقه ذاتها هي قناه فجاه صح.
الكرسي في النص هنا في الشارع. يلا معاك قناة فجأة بتقول لك قناة فجأة شنو؟ صورة قناة فجأة. السلام عليكم، نتعرف عليك يا فردة. معاك قناة فجأة، انت دايرين لك تقول لنا سبب مجيئك لهذه الثورة وبتقول شنو للشعب السوداني؟
كنداك يا ما بتعرف كنداك ما بتعرف.
تبرد انت ما جات
ما جات زول ثبت اي زول
نحكم بقناة فجأة ونلاقي شوف الكنداكة ديك ما مسك خلاص. شوف لنا كنداكة بعد يا هلا السلام عليكم، نحب نتعرف عليك. لا مع الاولاد من قبل مع الاولاد. الاولاد من قبل معهم. يقول لي شيء كنداكة منك ومنك في النص. عايز
Je m'appelle Seyda Sen.
لا ليس انت والله اثرت عليك.
ما لازم استوعب الفكرية اولا، تمام؟ عارف يعني الفكرية اللي هي اللي قبل الحد العنصرية، قبل التهميش، الوحدة، ده كله لازم يتحول اول عشان الناس تتكاتف، عشان الموضوع يبقى مش ثورة بس بتاعت اقتصاد كده. لازم يكون الموضوع فكري اولا، لازم يعالج كده على فاخر.
صبا يعني صبا سنة واقفة قنا ان شاء الله. دقيقة، لا المذيع الثالث وين؟ راح قدام ها؟ نمشي فاصل كده ونجي لقناة فجأة وصدى لي وكل الجماهير إن شاء الله نحييكم قناة فجأة.
تعال نتعشى لو متعشى على الحنة الطقة هذه عندي قدام يلا. سد انت ماشي، سد مش عارف كم انت واستنى بجاي.
عندك كرسي ولا حاجة؟ بس that's it no, just a chair.
مايك
تسلم. والله أنا بديت في 2013 وجيت السودان هنا ما كان في نهائي، ما كان في فن الشوارع ده. يعني حاولت أبتدي زي بسموها يعني ثورة فن كده.
ما لقيتي مضايقة من الجهات الحكومية، الأجهزة الحكومية، النظام السابق؟ ما قابلتك أي معارضات خاصة؟
في أشخاص زي ما قلت لك بيكونوا عندهم مثلا فكر ديني أو كده بيجي يمسك الحاجة، وفي نفس الوقت ناس الأمن برضو مشكلتهم في مثلا لبسي مثلا يعني أنا ما لابسة طرحة وكده وبنطلون وحاجات زي دي. لما أجي أرسم يعني بتحرك كتير، فهمتني؟
إن شاء الله في لقاءات كثيرة جاية.
إن شاء الله.
صورة نشوف المتحدثين الجايين يلا يا علي كذا المتحدث التالي هاي شايف الناس اللي قدام نحب نتعرف عليك.
دقيقة ولا تقدر تتعرف عليه ولا تقدر تتعرف على الخيمة. ده كله حاصل في جبال النوبة وبما فيه انه لسه عندنا بغادي يعني دي كلها مجازر تابعة
زي ما شايفين قتل، تشريد، مذابح جماعية، أطفال، قتل أطفال في الخنادق، أطفال يحتمون بجذوع الشجر. الدفاع الشعبي، الدعم السريع له دخل في الموضوع.
أنا من منطقة هيبان.
أيوة.
من المنطقة دي.
ده طبعا مسقط راسه في هيبان وقامت مجزرة. الجبال الشرقية في هيبان. مجزرة لأطفال وشفع وإبادات جماعية. الدم قصاد الدم مملك بلدية. ده زي ما شايفين بشة ودي أموال الشعب. قتل، سرق أموال الشعب، نهب أموال الشعب. القصاص يا بشة. كل الناس هنا في المتاريس، من هناك قوات الدعم السريع، قوات الدعم السريع وقوات الدفاع الشعبي. ديرك يا جماعة والله كتبت، ديرك كتبت. هذا ما شايفين، شوفوا انتبه المتاريس وراك، واحد من المتاريس اللي اتبنت واتهدمت وحيتبني تاني إن شاء الله.
قايل نتمشى؟
لا لا.
قايل ليدو؟
لا لا.
قايل لطمنة؟
لا لا.
قايل لونسة؟
لا لا.
الحصة شنو؟
الحصة وطن.
الحصة شنو؟
الحصة وطن. أزول لاك زاق، تعال حبيبي يا زول، تعالوا انتوا زاغين مالكم يا جماعة. لقاء مدني عادي. اليوم عندنا ضيف مهم جدا في هذه الحلقة، ضيف بمقام دولة. يا مهيار عمرك كم سنة؟ 6 سنة. ما شاء الله. من متى صاب بيها هنا؟
6 أبريل.
من 6 أبريل هنا. ما شاء الله، من قبل سقوط النظام. ممكن تتحدث لنا عن الناس اللي ثورة هنا ولا انت لسه عشب لي على الحاجات دي
تفت
ادينا هتاف.
وراجع انا ليا مطالب، جيبوا حكومة الحكم المدني، دم الكوز
الكتل الطالب. كان ضحكات والله ما شاء الله. ما شاء الله. من وين انت يا عيسى؟
من وين كيف يعني؟ من السودان.
من وين؟ من السودان. من وين في السودان؟
من السودان بس يا زلمه، احنا
من السودان ما دايرة
سوريا. ايوه.
هلا شكرا يا عيسى.
الله يخليك.
والله يستاهل شكلها كده خجلانة، خجلة جديدة.
اول حاجه البلد دي تكون امان، يعني الشرطه بدل ما تقعد تشاكل الناس تمشي تحميم.
ايوه.
تحمي برا، من برا تشوف الناس حاصل شنو، تشوف الوضع الحاصل شو الناس دي بتعمل في شنو. الحقيقه يحكم ده في النهايه دايرين حكومه مدنيه، ليس الا حكومه مدنيه، ما يحكموها عساكر، لانه احنا ما عساكر، احنا شعب. امان لكادوغلي، لدارفور، للبلد دي هنا، الخرطوم دي امان.
ايوه.
كويس؟ لا لاغتصاب الاطفال.
مدنيه. شكرا يا اخوتنا ويانا. شكرا لك. مدنيه. فتشوا في شنو هنا؟
فتش في حاجات ممكن تأسس قلم، قراية،
يعني حاجات زي دي بتلاقي؟
في يوميا هنا هذه الكرتونة مليانة.
وانتوا شغلكم هنا كيف مناوبات؟ زول واحد يشتغل.
انت شغاله ولا شغاله؟
الناس كلها شغالة، أي زول بيجي هسه يمكن ذاك داير زول هاي داير زول تقعد معي قاعدين نشتغل.
طيب شاكرين لك كثير.
كان ذاك صعبين. ارفع يدك وانت ارفع يدك حبة وانت بتشبه محبة. ارفع يدك حبة وانت بتشبه محبة. ارفع يدك تاني وانت بتشفي ثواني. ارفع يدك تاني وانت بتشفي ثواني. ارفع يدك لسه وانت بتشبه قصة. ارفع يدك لسه عادي نحاكم بالشعب. قصة سيارة مان.
والله قصة سيارة مان. جيت لي واحد من السوار قلت له يا اخي ادينا زيارة، قال لي لا ده كيفي. وهو ما في حاجة اسمه ده كيفي، احنا هنا حاجة واحدة. انا قررت من اللحظة ديك انه الناس تشرب سيجارة، اللي عنده واللي ما عنده يشرب. حاجة سيجارة بيجاي. دوا البومبان يا ناس، دوا البومبان. دوا البومبان، دوا البومبان. كل الاثنين. قال الساعة 12 حيفكوا دي تسامح، ما حيقدر يا زلمة، والله ما يقدر.
قال الساعة 12 حيجوا بعدين.
يعني القائد هم بدوا ينجروا قبل. بدوا يفتح من الساعة 2
رفاف يعني؟
رصاص عسكري.
لا ملازمة تعمل سريع اتقى الناس. لا ملازمة تعمل سريع اتقى الناس. دق عشان العالم كله يشوفك. دق يا معلم يا معلم، انت كويس يا برده.
نوال افضل ضد الشارع. ابراهيم رصاصة بالراس. فارس رصاصة. انا حامد 30 سنة.
انا حامد 13/5. يا جماعة خليه واضح.
عشان العالم كله يشوفك.
الفكرة هم ما عندهم منا أي حاجة، ما عندهم فكر في راسهم. والسلمية ولا انبسطت يدك إليه لتقتلني، ما أنا بباسط يدي ليقتلك. سلمية الواصل فيها سلمية. الملك سلمان يسقط بس، المجلس كله يسقط بس، الليلة يسقط بس، الليلة تسقط، يسقط بس، الليلة بتسقط، يسقط بس، الليلة بتسقط، يسقط بس، الليلة بتسقط. سيب البومبان يسقط بس، سيب البومبان يسقط بس، سيب البومبان يسقط بس، سيب البومبان.
ما راجعنا لي مطالب ما راجعنا لي مطالب جيبوا حكومة الحكم المدني دم الكوز الكتل الطالب مدنية 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 سلمية 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 مطالب
I'm sure it was really difficult to watch, and I know probably many of you were there, and if you weren't there, you knew people who were there. I wanted to talk about the process of making this film because in many ways it feels like I'm still making it. Like this festival is a kind of direct continuation for me of this film and this process. There's a big difference for me as a filmmaker between the kind of creative process and my process as a person in the world and relationship with people in a community, and then my process as a professional who gets a commission and shoots and edits and gets paid. Like those are two distinct things, and they're often in conflict with each other. And so I just wanted to walk you through the way that I made this film in hopes that it might be helpful. If we could start the slideshow. So you could, yes, this is the first slide. So I guess I could say this film started on April 13th. Trevor and I, we lived together. We had just moved to Paris after living in Nairobi for a long time, and Bashir had fallen. And this was insane, and we were following very closely. And we can go to the next slide. And this is in Paris. This is Place de la République, which is like the kind of site of all protest in Paris, in France, really. And the Sudanese community was out that day. And yeah, we had both worked a lot in the Nuba Mountains, had seen the resistance against Bashir's regime, the armed resistance against Bashir's regime, and also the nonviolent resistance. And so it was just amazing to see what nonviolent protest, civil disobedience, people on the streets accomplished in a few months. So then, I'm not Sudanese, and it was difficult to get a visa as a journalist to Khartoum. But at this point, it became possible. So I went to Khartoum. We went to Khartoum, and the sit-in was ongoing. So for those of you who aren't familiar, just very quick summary. Basically, Bashir was toppled, but the military refused to hand over power to the civilians, which was the demand of the revolutionaries, and so the protest and the revolution continued. We can go to the next slide. And people came from all over. Of course, this is the train from Atbara, I think, yeah. There were revolutionary processions from all over Sudan, and they came and they occupied the military headquarters in Khartoum, and then also in different cities across Sudan. You can continue. Next slide. This is out the window of the apartment we were staying in, rented by our friend Abdussalam. It was Ramadan, it was so hot, and so we basically just went to the sit-in at night. Next slide, please. And also, sorry, I should say, I had a commission to make a film about the revolution, about a person in the revolution, a revolutionary from Al Jazeera, which, yeah, so I'd pitched them a story idea and they accepted the commission, and so I went with this intention. And I got to the sit-in, and it was amazing, as many of you experienced. We can go to the next slide. I was immediately interviewed by a cardboard camera crew. They wanted to know what I was doing in the revolution. And yeah, and I was like, okay, actually this is the film, because the thing that was so moving to me was how every single person had a role to play in this movement. This was not a revolution that had a leader. It was horizontal, it was the people. And so I wanted to make a film that captured all of that. And I thought, what better way than to follow these kids around, and they could be your sort of guide through this protest movement. So then Abdussalam, a friend, connected me with these boys from Gaddarif who claimed to have originated the idea. There were many different groups of kids running around with cardboard cameras. And so I followed them around over the course of a week, basically, from sort of iftar at nighttime until, I don't know, 3, 4 in the morning. Next slide, please. This is another interview happening. Also not the crew that I followed, our friend Hajuj. You can go to the next one. Yeah, here's another one, Al-Hadath, the story, what does it say? Al-Nas, Al-Insan. The people are the subject of the story. Next one, so yeah, sorry, lots of pictures of these guys. There's Trevor. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, and then, so now we get back to the technical process. So basically for me, the shooting, the filming is such a small part of the filmmaking practice, or my filmmaking practice. I filmed over the course of a week. I had intended, I think revolutions make you, one of the things that I've witnessed is that they make you into dreamers and believers. And when I was in this protest, I left thinking that people would never leave, never leave. And so I had to go back to Nairobi, and I was planning on coming back to film more. There was so much more to film. And then June 3rd happened. So I had what I had. And at this point, I went to Al Jazeera and I said, oh, I want to make a film about a bunch of people. It's like an ensemble cast, because it's, you know, this is the People's Revolution, and they totally freaked out. So TV is very, very kind of strict format. You know, they don't experiment formally, and it's tends to be a very linear structure, like character-driven, 3-act structure, hero's journey, da-na-na-na-na, which I was really resisting because I felt like that wasn't accurate. You know, that wasn't how I wanted to tell a story about this movement. So we ultimately decided to make 2 separate films. They said, you know, we paid you, you have to make a film for us. And so I picked one of the kids and then followed him, had somebody film with him in Cairo. Well, first at his family's house outside of Khartoum, and then in Cairo. And so made a film that was sort of led by Ali, this one kid. And then, okay, that film was broadcast, خلاص, and then I was gonna make this other film, but I password protected my hard drive, and then I got locked out of it because I forgot the password for an entire year and a half. Which, this stuff happens. People lose hard drives, you lock yourself out of hard drives, things get corrupted, and then I was like, shit, the film. Basically, it's like a long and boring story, but I ended up getting a different computer and rebacking up and and I was able to access this hard drive. And then the film that you see is basically the first version of the film that I sent to Al Jazeera, and they were like, "What is this garbage?" And that's that. So, this film has done this sort of festival thing in different parts of the world, but one of the things that was amazing about it was I was able to get an impact grant from a US funder, and they fund international productions, and I'm happy to talk to you all about it after, called Chicken and Egg for women filmmakers. And this impact grant allowed me to focus on stuff like this. So can we go on the next slide? So the first thing we did, the film premiered at a festival in Amsterdam. The tickets sold out, and so nobody I wanted to come could come. So then we had Trevor helped us organize a Art and Revolution for Sudan party, and the Sudani community of the Netherlands showed up, and we had a performance by Mo Ali and DJ Mossab. Baba. And so basically everywhere that we've been able to, we've had these sort of community events for diaspora, and then have also been able to do mobile cinema projects, which I'll talk about later. Next slide, please. So this is a photo from the mobile cinema screening in Port Sudan. So one of the things that was very clear to me during the sit-in was how important it was for people to just have a free space to talk and to express themselves and to be together and to meet people whom they would have never necessarily encountered. And that, to me, is the beauty of Third Spaces and also of this mobile cinema work, because you're just in a place with people you may not know, not talking about politics, which I think is really so important right now. So that's the stuff we're doing in Port Sudan, and now we're lucky to have the team here with us today. There's another mobile cinema team that's launching in Biali. And yeah, they watch all sorts of films. And at first it was meant to be a place to kind of talk about revolution and movements, but it was too difficult, and so it was like, let's watch Queen of Katwe and Disney films, which is also great. Okay, next slide, please. Is that it? No, more mobile cinema. You can keep going, keep going. Oh yeah, Al-Sada and the new. So another thing that we did as part of the impact work was help to facilitate a trip of humanitarians from Sudan to come and meet people, funders, movements in the US and Al-Sada and some others, and I helped put on an event at the People's Forum, which was really amazing because we brought together, you can go to the next slide, different social movements in the US, and they learned from members from the ERRs and mutual aid groups in Sudan, because they have so much to share. And next slide. And we screen the film. Next slide. These are the conversations between movements in New York. Next slide. This is, I had to drive a very big van from Midtown Manhattan to DC. One of the scarier things I've ever done. Next slide. We launched Sanduk al-Sudan, which has put together this festival. Yeah, and it's really sort of the central idea of Sanduk al-Sudan is Nafir, this idea of mutual aid, of working together, collaborative community work. Go on to the next slide. And this is a women's group in Khartoum. So one of the objectives is also to fundraise for different mutual aid groups in Sudan. So it's a sliding scale, but around every $10,000 we shift the focus of the fund and send to a different mutual aid group in Sudan. Next slide. So this is a women's cooperative group in Khartoum. These photos are from Dua Tariq. Okay, next slide. I think we're done. I think I'm done. Yeah, we had a print sale. This is a beautiful photograph from Abdurrahman Kambal to also support the fund and also Sudanese photographers. That's all. So yeah, I just wanted to run through that quickly because I think the process of filmmaking, again, as I said, there is the very technical bit, but I suspect all of you are also interested in film for other reasons, because film serves a lot of different purposes and can be a really useful tool. And I just urge you to realize that you're not necessarily at the very beginning. You don't have nothing, you know. You already have a story, you have a voice, you have access to an incredible community, and the rest is easy to pick up.
I'm just gonna, thanks Rupa. And Rupa is available for questions about the film in particular throughout the day. So please talk to her, ask her, give her feedback, criticism, compliments. I just wanted to give a couple kind of, I guess, tips or thoughts that I have. But first I just wanted to ask from the audience, how many of you have made a film? Raise your hand, please. Hi. Is that raising a hand? Is that a yes? You've made a film? Okay, great. How many of you have made 2 films? All right, amazing. How many of you in this room are producers that produce films? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Amazing. 5. Okay. How many of you are directors? All right. And how many of you are camera people? All right. Cool. So it's a good mix. We actually have more producers than I thought. I think producers, I am talking right now, I'm sorry, as a producer. I don't want to be a producer. I don't like producing. But I'm doing it because it's needed. And it's one of the biggest gaps in a cinema is the person that can pull it all together so that the director can follow their vision. So you may not, when you hear a producer, you think of a big word, like a big fancy guy that abuses people he works with and has lots of money. The reality is most producers get paid very little and do most of the work. Sorry, directors. But I think it's important to have a producer person in your crew, because you're often like, I have my idea, you know, I have my editor, but who's the guy, who's the girl that's gonna like pull it all together, keep the vision going, make you feel better when you're depressed. So you may just be a friend, but find someone, I think this is a really important tip, find someone that can be not necessarily involved in the technical and even the story, but like that can kind of hold you up as you go. And it could be your mom. But to speak a little bit more about what a producer can also do, traditionally a producer is the person that gets you money. It's the person that takes your beautiful idea and then sells it to get a grant, to a funder, to Al Jazeera, things like that. And that's something I think that's important to talk about, and we have a few people here who have experience with that, with getting money. But at the same time, a producer is also someone, that helps hold the story. So just to take a step back, we started making films, we just made films. We didn't think about if we are distributing them or if we are producing them or if they're in production or post-production or pre-production. We made films because we were journalists, we had the equipment, and we could do it. And that's what most of us have, is we have time, we have a phone, we have an idea. But it's super scary, to make that first step. But the thing to do, I don't know a single situation in which I would say, and maybe as people here would disagree, but like pretty much every first film I know about, people just made. They didn't wait for permission, they didn't wait for money. They just made it. Because you're gonna fuck up and you're gonna maybe fail, but you're probably gonna get by and you're gonna learn a lot. And then at that point, you're gonna know much better how to engage with the kind of broader system. And I want to hear, different people's stories about that in a second. But traditionally, in the kind of cinema production process, you have development, which is a stage where you're figuring out your idea. You're thinking about it, you're talking with your friends about it, you're researching, and if it's for a documentary, you're just writing notes down, coming up with a concept, a story. Or for fiction, it could be something where you're actually writing a script. So development can literally last for 10 years if you're not careful. It can also be something that happens quick. You leave here, you have an idea, you go and film it, bam, you're done. After development, you have like the production process where you're making stuff, you're filming stuff, you're doing interviews, you're talking to people. And then post-production is when you are in the editing room, sitting with your footage, thinking about those decisions. And that process can take 20 years or it can take a week. And then after that, you have this distribution process, which I urge you to think about early. Because what are you going to do with your film? Rupa thought that she was going to work with Al Jazeera and make the film that she wanted, a beautiful, poetic film that you saw. They did not want that. They wanted a news piece, This is going to be like this, and that. So thinking about where your film was going to live is important. And that could be, I dream for my film to be in Al Jazeera, or that could be, I dream for my film to be watched by my community. But thinking about who your audience is really important.
And you can make multiple versions.
Or you can make, you can always do that, especially if you are an editor. And so I guess in that process, from development to production, I'd like to hear who here has an idea in development right now that they're thinking about doing, making a film about. Please raise your hand. That's it? So like 4 ideas, 5 ideas, 6 ideas, 7 ideas? Biggie, come on. You gotta have an idea. Okay, you're not in development, he's in production. Who here is producing, is actually shooting stuff right now? Okay, we have a couple people. And who is in distribution of their film right now? Okay, we got one over here. So today we're gonna focus on the development, which I think is where a lot of people's energy is. How do you develop an idea? How do you get it made? And how do you start production? So we're gonna have Patience is gonna come and talk to us about story and concept. And then we're gonna have a mobile cinema discussion, and then a technical workshop, and a one-on-one meetings, or small group meetings for those of you who have ideas, who wanna workshop it with Patience or Rupa or me or LK or others who are in this room. Is there any questions? We'll do like 5 minutes for questions, and then we'll pass it to Patience.
Who doesn't have an idea about film and what they would want to learn? Who wants to learn something to do with film, and what would they want to learn?
يعني أنا زي ما قلت إنه جيت هنا عشان عايزة أعمل فيلم. فعايزة أتعلم إنه بيكون في أفكار، في ناس كثيرة عندها أفكار في الدنيا، لكن الأفكار دي ممكن كيف تبقى فيلم، وليه ذاته. يعني السؤال اللي بيكون جواي إنه ليه أنت عايزة تعملي فيلم؟ دي كلها أسئلة أنا حاسة إنه مفترض أجاوب عليها. قررت إنه أنا بس أجي الوركشوب دي عشان على الأقل أعرف بداية الطريق عاملة كيف، إنه الفكرة كيف بتبقى بعد ذاك بروجكت أو بتبقى واقع يعني.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions about the presentation that Rupa and I did before we move into patients?
Thank you so much. That was a really wonderful presentation. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys highlighted the personal nature of filmmaking and the role of the filmmaker really almost as a community observer and member, and the role of the producer as a friend to the project. So my question was mostly directed towards producer, I think, because that's really where my area of interest is at the moment. That step between starting on small projects, 1 or 2 small projects, and then trying to really engage on a larger scale with bigger projects. I know filmmakers, like a lot of independent artists, end up doing a lot of different things at once. But how does the producer assist in that way with the filmmaker? And is it also required that every filmmaker know how to be a producer also?
I'll take this one as the token producer.
Can I just say one thing quickly? I think traditionally when people go to film school or study, even go to journalism school and study documentary, there's this sort of professionalization of filmmaking that I think can really obstruct us. Like you have to have a camera person and a sound person and a producer and a director and an editor and a writer. And yes, all of these are sort of distinct jobs, but it's also totally possible that you are all of these things. And that was the reality for me and for Trevor and for many of the people I know in this audience. So yeah, I think that when there is budget, or if you have a community that is willing to sort of work on a project collectively, even if there's not budget, then it's great to have this sort of separation in roles. But it is totally possible for you to do all of the above.
Maybe I'll just talk briefly about the Europe kind of market, and then I'd like to hear from patients about Uganda. But traditionally there, most of the money in Europe comes from the government. So let's say you have an idea, you want to make a film about your grandmother, you make a proposal, you send it to the government with a 50-page whatever thing, like pitch documents, and then they either give you money or they don't, or you can go to a broadcaster. So producers typically, Osara, are the liaison between you and either grant, government funding, or broadcasters. Because they'll have the connections, they'll have the trust. And which is great, because as a director, you don't want to go and schmooze with some TV channel or, government official, but that also means they can capture power and they can capture money and resources. And so in Europe right now, there is a massive desire for African films, and in particular, Sudanese films. People are very curious about the stuff that's been coming out, and they want more. But there is also a slightly strange, predatory relationship in which you'll see at a film festival, which is kind of the industry of European cinema. you'll have young African filmmakers there and older white producers who will be like, let me produce your film, I'm gonna make you famous. You know, and oftentimes what will happen, from my friends that I've spoken to about this in West Africa, is the European producer Bigfoot will take over the role from the African producer. So then, and the African director will be like, oh, I'm going with the powerful one because they have these connections. And so but there is a lot of pushback and there's a lot of unfairness right now in how that happens in Europe. America is a very different market, super capitalist, and honestly not really worth your while. But I would just say, to answer your question, if you find a good producer, they will make your life way better because they will deal with all of these headaches. And I don't know, in Kenya there is a real bumping scene in production. Sudan, I'd like to hear from you guys about that briefly as well. I don't quite know as much kind of what's happening there, but over to you about East Africa.
Thank you so much, Ruba and your friend. So what I want to ask you, so it's a very meaningful lesson, we appreciate that. So can you tell us the process of making film and productive? Because you asking some question productive and to making film and producing. So most of us here, this is their career, but it's some of us, we are lack of knowledge in this side. Exactly, me, I say I'm lawyer, I may have this is a journalist. We have some people here are not have full.
You take this question, the producer question. I'd like to maybe hear from one of the Sudanese producers briefly, and then she's gonna do a whole process on that. We'll come back to the filmmaking process.
So yeah, thank you. And I think with producing, the way I describe a producer, you are the ship, literally. You're the engine and the ship. You're the one driving everything. And going back to what you said, here you have to do something to get support because we don't have huge support from the government. And co-production treaties have not yet been open for Uganda. East Africans, to a level like German organizations or American organizations, open up small companies like in Kenya, and then they use that to have it's terrible when you think about it. But what I do as a producer, when I identify a good story or an idea that I see has potential, it's also identifying what story is it telling. When you find a story like that, as a producer, I'm like, I'm going to call my mom, I'm going to call all my friends, a collective, just like LK said. I'm going to call all my different friends and I'll tell them, I have this dope idea. Why don't you come on board and get credit? You come on and you get credit as an EP if you give this kind of money, but it's that has managed to make us make films that are different, but with the support and money, it's not as available as it is outside. And then it goes back to distribution. Distribution in a nutshell is when you make a film. I love Rupa's idea of Al Jazeera and the story she wanted to tell. But with distribution is like, where do you want this film to go? What story are you telling that you want the people to receive? Like the target audience. When we have a specific audience that we've identified, then we know the story we are telling. And as a producer, those are some of the things you think about to make the director's work easy, but also everyone else around production. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I would say that if you guys, those of you that want to know more about production, talk to some of the producers because that's needed. And I want to hear from Elsara and then a Sudanese producer, if they could briefly, and then we'll go into filmmaking.
Can you just build more on the conversation about distribution you just had? I think it's really fascinating to address different avenues of distribution for us as Africans. I find the story of the rise of Nollywood, for example, very inspiring. and the way we consume media on WhatsApp, on various platforms that are really non-regulated, and how do we bring that into our art making, especially from the producer's perspective when we're helping filmmakers with that. If you can talk more about that.
Yeah, so with distribution at the moment, and I'll put it in the Ugandan context, we personally am behind Matatu Film Stage. You may see it, it's a distribution platform, but what we are doing is collecting like provocative, we're identifying the unique films that the government doesn't want to see, or sparking conversation, or talking about subjects that are not, they're not your everyday subjects, you know, like you wouldn't expect a dope story talking about colonialism, but connecting it to like masks from Congo that are being smuggled out. So what we are doing is doing film on the road, where we are bringing the cinema to the people, for them to also bring a small fee to get that culture of, when you don't have to go to watch a blockbuster for like, you know, $10, so people don't get access to our films. So we take it to the communities, but also bring in this element of paying for the films. That's the one thing that we are doing, but also identifying small communities in neighboring countries before we go to the outside. I was just talking to Trevor earlier on, when we think of distribution, we think of submitting to festivals, then they give our films like, you know, an award or something, but creating mini festivals and companies within East Africa to start that as a tradition. We take Matatu Film Stage to Nairobi at a fee to support filmmakers or another upcoming filmmaker to make an idea. And the other thing that we're trying to explore more for distribution, we have an online platform where we share these films. So the first, like 3 months, the first subscription is free. And it's very accessible. You only need to pay like 500, close to no cent, to be able to get this film. But we all know we have people, like we call them boda guys. I know you've all been on a boda. So something that a boda guy can get and not feel like they need so much data to do it. It takes a lot of time to grow, but there's all these different avenues that we are putting in place, or you think with what your audience is or with where you come from. I'm talking too much, but I hope I'm talking sense. There's also one last thing I'm going to pass. There's also one thing that we are doing. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So the other thing that I'm putting in place is I'm creating spaces for us to be able to be at the festivals without having to go through competition. Because by the time a film goes to submission for festivals, to even get seen, you have to pay a fee. There's all these processes. So there's an initiative called Spotlight. It's Spotlight Uganda for now, but the plan is to collaborate with other East African filmmakers for us to collect films that represent us, that don't have to go through a competition, through this, for people to say, today is Spotlight Sudan. We collect different films from Sudan and go to a festival like Berlinale, and then we carry the directors there to create like the connections for them to get funding, but also the long-term goal is to be able for it to create income for the next project. That's what I'm doing at the moment. It's crazy, but I'm doing it with my team. Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to the producer.
I have a mic, thank you. What the question is? Okay. I'll be speaking in Arabic. طيب في السودان في مرحلتين يعني في المرحلة التاريخية الأولى اللي هي بدت في نهاية الخمسينات وبداية الستينات which كان في مؤسسة الدولة للسينما وكان في بروسيس حكومية يعني بتنتج أفلام وكذا. بعد 86 اتغيرت حاجات كثيرة، وبالذات في الفترة بتاعت الحكومة يعني اتقفلت السينمات، بقى ما في فند للأفلام، وكان ده موضوع حرام يعني، ف they forbid البراكتس بتاع السينما، وما كان في أي أكاديميات بتاع السينما في السودان يعني أو لحد يتسي. بس يعني قبل الحرب كان فيها المؤسسات الصغيرة اللي هي كليات صغيرة بتاعت مالتي ميديا وكده، لكن ما في انستيتيوت بتاع سينما بروفيشنال. فبالنسبة لنا احنا الجيل الجديد كنا جينا يعني لقينا ما في أي برودكشن ولا أي حاجة. ف يعني بتذكر لحد هسه أول فيلم أنا عملته كان زيرو بادجت، which is ما يعني، أو لحد هسه قاعد نعمل أفلام بزيرو بادجت. وبعدين يعني it is so common إنك أنت تتعلم كل الحاجات، لأنه أنت حتضطر at some point إنك تعمل كل الحاجات. يعني if I have a choice أنا عايزة أكون writer and director، ما عايزة أكون كاميرا وومن، ما عايزة أكون عندي علاقة بالبروديوسرز ولا القروش ولا كل الحياة دي. I don't want to do this. لكن you don't have options، فعشان كده لازم تتعلم كل الحاجات، انك انت تكون الكاميرا وتكون الصوت وتعمل كل البروسيس بتاعتك براك يعني. وحتى في الافلام اللي فيها تمويل وكده، يعني انا اخر فيلم عملته هسي انا اضطريت انه اشتغل 5 حاجات جوا الفيلم، يعني اونلي الزول الاديتور اللي هو بس اللي عمل فيلم. ده فيلم فيه قروش وكده، لكن ستيل القروش بتكون بسيطه شديد يعني في السودان، وبنضطر انه نشتغل مثلا اعمال ثانيه. يعني انا دائما بكون شغاله وظائف ثانيه عشان بالدخل بتاعها اجي اعمل بيه افلام. ف it is not easy يعني انك to make فيلم في السودان. وبرضه كمان الثقافه بتاعت الناس، بفتكر برضه هي دي واحده من الحاجات بتاعت الهوس السياسي والديني في السودان، انه موضوع الكاميرا والتصوير، والناس ما عايزين يعني يسهروا وما عايزين يشاركوا قصصهم الشخصيه، وبيفتكروا انه ذاته الكاميرا حرام. يعني بروسيس طويله من الكومبليكيشن بتاع المجتمع على التعقيد ذاته بتاع الدوله وكذا، بيصعب الامور يعني. لكن مع الكاميرا بتاعت الموبايل والكاميرا بتاعت SDR كاميراز، يعني it's make it more easier، وفيها فرص كبيرة شديد لنا وللشباب انهم يكونوا يعملوا افلام ويحكي قصصهم الشخصية والقصص المحيطة بهم وكده يعني. ان شاء الله اكون جاوبت على briefly. Can you use the mic?
Yeah. Just about distribution, the question that Alsara did, I think I can add something about our experience, like in Brazil, specifically my neighborhood or in the outskirts of São Paulo. In the beginning of my career, I started to distribute my films in pirated DVD stalls. You know, was the first time that and you mentioned about Nollywood. It was the same thing, you know. And I know that it is a South global thing, you know, like because rich countries they don't have like much piracy, but piracy is very important for me. I learned cinema by piracy, you know. The first making of that I saw was in pirate DVD. So I started to distribute my films like given for free. I have like my friends who work in pirate DVD stalls, and I ask them like just give my films with to someone who buy another film, you know, just give them. So I start to get known in my place, you know, and this is and still is so important for me that I go there like it's like people knows like, oh, this is a director here traveling. They know all things about my life because my mom shared in the Instagram. But this for me is so important to think about because now we are doing another thing who is like distributing our films on WhatsApp, you know. And I wanted to share a really good experience that we have. In our last film, before Mutirão, I did a film called A Sunday's Movie that we did 2 things. In the first screen of the movie, we ask for money. We ask like, if you want to give some contribution, please, here's the email. So just to this, we made 2K, you know. 2K, it was a film made with no money. And So just with this email and PayPal thing, we receive like 2K, and then we start to ask for on WhatsApp groups, on groups of their neighborhood, like if you want to premiere the link of our film, you can contribute it like with any money. And we did our bank account. In Brazil, we have like this thing that you can share money without tax, you know, or give money, you know. And we made like 8K, you know, 8K, just advertising on internet, Instagram, you know, this is our movie, here's our link, you know. And don't give in a shit about premiering festivals, you know. And the film still are in festivals, because festivals wants like the world premiere, no, but they don't look for like your film is online. I give my film for people, and please pirate my movies, you know. I will send my links, and you can share the links on YouTube, WhatsApp, because this doesn't mean nothing to me, like premiere, you know. I want people to see my films, and especially in my neighborhood, you know. So for me, it's very important, this grassroots marketing, because it's a way to be known like by your people. It's a way that your friends value your work too, you know. Because as a filmmaker in my neighborhood, I have this thing that I was like, I hate this, but I am the first of my family to do this. I am the first of the neighborhood. I'm the first in people from the hood to make films. And I don't want to be the first, but people look at me like, oh, like an alien, you know. And I know, and I want to people know what it is to be a filmmaker. And now we have a lot of filmmakers in our neighborhood, you know. Filmmakers that saw my films like 15 years ago. We have a lot. And just to add something, we have our own film schools. We build our film schools. I have an experience that I was honoring in a film school in a favela in Rio. They honor me because like they construct their own film school with their own film club. So this is a thing that we learn in our hood too. If we want to share our movie with our people, we need to build our cinema too, you know? So it's more about like how we can share, not just idea, but our art, our poem, our love, you know, about the things that we are doing, and how people around us can relate. And because this is like an automatic thing. Alsara knows this. If you make art with your people, people will make art too, you know? This is will grow, like, you know, we are I'm just thinking about Portuguese word, but I'm thinking we are, I don't know an English translation for this, but we grow, you know, we grow like grass, you know. You just need to show, you just need to people just need to see that it's possible to do, you know. And eventually, and right now I'm working like in film festivals around the world, but because people are recognizing, then when I go to film festivals, then when I want some grants, I always come back to my place with something, you know, with knowledge, with contacts, with movies, you know, because this is how rich people continue making films. They contact, they connect, you know, and they build bridges, but they build bridges between them. And they have interest in us just to suck our talent, our beauty, you know, because we are beauty and they know this. And we need to connect with us, with our people, you know, like Latin America and Africa, for me, is more possible than Europe and America, you know. We need to connect more. So this grassroots marketing is very important, like WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram. Please share your movies. Don't have afraid to share, you know.
شكرا جزيلا. أنا عاوز أتكلم ببساطة شديد وأحاول إنه أختصر. أتكلم ببساطة شديدة عن المشاكل اللي بتواجه الفيلم ميكر أو صناعة الأفلام بالسودان من وجهة نظري من وجهة نظري الشخصية. واحدة من المشاكل اللي بتواجه صناعة الأفلام في السودان اللي هي دور السينما التجارية. أعتقد دور السينما التجارية هي واحدة من الأسباب اللي بتساعد صناع الأفلام إنه هم يلقوا منصة يعرضوا فيها أفلامهم ويلقوا عائدات بتاعة أموال، وده بيشجع كثير من الصناع بتاعين الأفلام الجداد إنه هم يبدوا مشاريعهم الشخصية. نحن فاقدين الحاجة دي تماما. الحاجة الثانية ودي مهمة شديدة، المعرفة. أعتقد إنه معظمنا نحن كسودانيين عاوزين طوالي، مجرد ما إنه نحن جاتنا الفكرة في إنه نحن عاوزين نبقى صناع أفلام، عاوزين طوالي نبقى مخرجين ما عارف مخرجين، يعني عاوزين نبقى مخرجين طوالي، ما عارف يعني كلمة مخرج دي طوالي، إنه نحن في حين إنه أي بارت من صناع الأفلام هي حاجة مهمة شديد، لأنه هي بتدعم بعض، نحن بنشتغل في سيركل. الحاجة الثالثة اللي هي المعرفة ذاتها. كل الناس اللي بتجي تساعد في إنه هي تعمل ورش للصناع بتاعين الأفلام السودانيين هم بيكونوا أجانب. بيكون في جاب كبير ما بين التجربة الأجنبية والتجربة السودانية، فلما أنا أتملك التجربة الأجنبية فأنا بيكون عندي جاب، فهل أنا أكتب السيناريو بتاعي بالتجربة الأجنبية دي ولا أكتبه بالعربي وأعمل له ترانسليتر ولا كده. الحاجة الرابعة اللي هي الفند. دائما 90 أو 99% من الفند اللي بنلقاه أو الفرص بتاعة التمويل اللي بنلقاها هي دائما هم اللي بيوجهوك انك انت تعمل لهم فيلم شنو، ما الافكار بتاعتك. فدي برضو من الحاجات اللي نحن بنكون ما قادرين نعمل الافلام بتاعتنا الفراسنا. انا دائما قاعد اقول انه السودان هو عباره عن رو ماتيريال. السودان فيه عباره عن اكثر من 500 قبيله واكثر من 18 ولايه، وكل ولايه بيكون فيها تضاريس مختلفه، جغرافيا مختلفه، سحنات مختلفه. فكل الحاجات دي العالم محتاج انه يشوفها. فلكن انه نحن محتاجين انه نشتغل مع بعض ونلقى المساعدات اللازمه القادره انه نحن تسهل لنا الطريق. ما دائما المساعدات الماليه، المساعده المعرفيه انا بعتبرها انه نحن عندنا جاب كبيره. نحن للان نحن ما بين الجيل القديم اللي هو بيكتب سيناريو بتاع مسلسلات ولا عبارة عن حاجات بتاع دراما في التلفزيون، وما بين انه نحن عاوزين نصنع افلام، فبقينا ما بنكون عارفين انه يا اخي السيناريو ده بيتكتب كيف. فانت اذا ما عندك السيناريو ده بداية الفيلم، اذا ما عندك ورق محترم مهما قدمت لأي فند ما حتلقى تمويل. أي شخص أعتقد أنه في السودان أو كثير من السودانيين عندهم أفكار في راسهم وعاوزين يحولوها لفيجوال، لكن البناية بتاعت أول خطوات المنهجية اللي أنا أحاول أنه أعملها في كثير من الأفلام حاليا عند شباب قاعدة في الأجهزة بتاعتهم في تلفوناتهم ما عارفين يوزعوا الأفلام دي كيف. أعتقد أنه قبل ما نحن نفكر في صناعة الفيلم بتاعنا لازم نفكر في أنه نحن عاوزين شنو الآلية بتاعت عرض الفيلم ده، وهل الفيلم بتاعي دي هل هو حيتعرض في المهرجان الفلاني ولا، لأنه حتى المهرجانات لها قوانين. احتمال انه انا فيلمي ده يكون جميل جدا لكن ما يتوافق مع اهداف المهرجان الثاني، فبرضه دي عباره عن واحده من المشاكل اللي قاعد تواجهنا. الفيلمين اللي انا شفتهم في البدايه هم خلوني انه انا اشوف صناعه الافلام قدر شنو انه هي سهله وقدر شنو انه هي صعبه. اعتقد انه الحاجه الوحيده المهمه هي انك انت الستوري بيهايند ذا فيلم بتاعك، بغض النظر عن انك انت صنعته كيف. لكن بعد ذاك بفكر في انه انا عاوز انه كميه من الناس تحضر الفيلم بتاعي دي. شنو القناة اللي انا بعرض فيها الفيلم بتاعي ده؟ هو فيستيفال ولا عباره عن الاسره بتاعتي ولا عباره عن الناس اللي عندهم شغف تجاه الافلام؟ انا اعتقد انه انا فيلمي ما صانعه على اساس انه 20 نفر او 30 نفر انا احصرهم في قاعه على اساس انه هم يحضروا الفيلم بتاعي. الافكار بتاعتي لازم انه على الاقل تتشارك ما بين الدول على اساس انه انا عاوز اشارك الافكار بتاعتي دي. الحاجه الاخيره اللي انا عاوز اتكلم فيها الضغوطات اللي نحن بيمارس علينا في السودان بسبب الافلام او الفيلم عباره عن مرآة المجتمع، احيانا في قضايا حساسه انه نحن بنحاول انه نحن نتكلم عنها، فالا انت تكون برا البلد. فانت كفيلم ميكر عاوز سوداني عاوز تكون تصنع فيلم، فلازم انك انت تكون داخل السودان. فده برضو واحده من اكبر التحديات اللي بتواجهنا. اتمنى اكون ما طولت وشكرا لكم كثير.
I think we should all just, this is amazing comment and questions that you've put forth that I think we can talk about more in this afternoon because it's really fundamental stuff. Okay, we have 2 minutes and then we're going to jump into filmmaking. This is the last,
أنا بس عندي توضيح بسيط شوية على كلام الجدال حسن. يعني هو مش أن إحنا في السودان ما عندنا المعرفة بصناعة السينما والمجال السينمائي وما في كوادر سينمائيين. الكلام ده هو ما صح يعني، لأنه لو جينا نحن نتكلم عن صناعة الفيلم في السودان يعني من الفترة بتاعت ناس إبراهيم شداد، سليمان، جاد الله جبارة، الناس اللي صنعوا أفلام هي قدرت تفوز بمهرجانات عالمية إذا كانت المعايير اللي بنتكلم عنها إن هي عالمية وكده. فالرواد بتاع صناعة السينما في السودان هم حقيقة قدموا أفلام ستيل هي تظل عالمية، يعني الجمل، تاجوج، إنسان، بيت النمل، حتى الأفلام اللي ضاعت في الفترة بتاعت 86 وبداية التسعينات في المعامل البريطانية بسبب تماطل الحكومة السودانية. ولحد ما نجي ماشيين نحن بالثورة العظيمة اللي جات معنا ستموت في العشرين وتوكينج أباوت تريس لصهيب عبد الباري وأوف سايد الخرطوم. يعني حقيقة أنا لو قلت أرصد القدرات والإمكانيات بتاعت الجيل القديم على الجيل الجديد اللي جا قدم لي أفلام وثائقية بمستوى عالي شديد. ما ناسينك يا سنوبي، الرحلة إلى كينيا باعتباره يعني واحد جد كده من الناس اللي بيلهمونا نحن كشباب في السودان، سنوبي، صهيب عبد الباري، وشفنا قدر شنو هم قدروا يصنعوا أفلام ستيل يعني هي محتاجة لمزيد من الشوف والتقييم وبتلهمنا كل يوم. القابة الوحيدة اللي أنا قاعد أشوفه إنه يعني ما في المؤسسات المعرفية اللي بتملك صناع وهو السينما في السودان الحاجة دي بشكل مؤسسي. دي الحاجة الأولى. الحاجة الثانية ما اتخلقت منتديات تلم كوادر صناع السينما في السودان، الناس الجيل القديم على الجيل بتاع الوسط، على أن إحنا باعتبارنا لسه ناس بنتلمس طريقنا اتجاه السينما. شكرا.
شكرا. أنا ممكن أعمل إضافة في السياق السوداني إنه المشكلة بما تخص الصعيد الأمني ثاني المحتوى والأفلام في السودان زمان في الثمانينات وخيره وبداية التسعينات كانت الأغلية بتاعتهم والتفكير في صناعة الأفلام ما أفلام هي مقاومة بتعكس انتحاكات أكثر، بتتكلم عن حقوق بتاعت أطفال، مرأة، غيره وغيره. فبالتالي الريسك الأمني كان عليهم قليل شوية، المساحة بتاعت التحرك كانت أكبر. لكن الجيل اللي حس في نهاية التسعينات في الألفينات بالذات نقول في 20 سنة هو جيل أغليته أغلية بتاعت مقاوم، عايز يعبر عن حاجاته اللي بتعنيه في المنطقة بتاعته أو في السودان بصورة عامة. وكل الحاجات دي معروفة للناس إنها هي عبارة عن انتحاكات، عبارة عن تعبير عن مظالم وعدالة وغيرها. فبالتالي دي ذات واحدة من التحدي اللي قاعدة تواجهنا. برضو واحدة تانية من الحاجات التحدي إنه المانحين أو الجهات اللي أنت مثلا بتقدم لها بروبوزل لأنك عايز تنتج فيلم، أيوة أنت بعدم الخبرة والمعرفة بتاعتك ممكن الستوري بتاعتك ما تكتبها بالطريقة اللي هم عايزينها بالقالب اللي هم عايزينه. فيفترض إنه هم يرسلوا لك حاجة أو يوجهوك يقول لك يا أخي نحن والله عندنا زول بيساعد هي عشان نطور الفكرة بتاعتك دي على أساس إنه تكون موافقة للحاجات بتاعتنا نحن عشان ممكن نحن نديك. أنا بصورة عامة ما قاعد يعني أنتظر إنه جهة تدعمني ولا ما كده، فبتحرك طوالي. وفي نهاية 19 كنت عندي فكرة بعد الكورونا جات كان قاعد وأنا بفكر كل مرة أنا أصحابي في الناس الكبار الثمانينات 90 سنة يعني أصدقائي، فبسمع فلان مات فلان مات. أنا قلت يا عباس الناس زيل الذخيرة العلمية والمعرفية اللي امتلكوها ما من جيبهم، يعني كان زمان الناس زي بيقروا من على حساب الدولة وابتعثوا خارج السودان على حساب الدولة. فالناس زي قبل ما يموتوا خليت دون الفكرة بتاعتهم دي التجارب حقتهم وخلاصتها. فجات الفكرة هنا في إنه أعمل فيلم أسميه أسير الحياة اللي هو خلاصة التجربة بتاعتك أنت تعالى الدين لها. فلما ما لقيت تمويل قلت خلاص يا اخي انا بدل كده اقوم اعمل عدد من الحلقات لما الناس بيجوا اكتر وكلامهم كتير. فبجيب مواليد الثلاثينات، اذا جيت قلت لي انت انا مولود 49 كم و40 بقول لك لا انت ما عدا النساء طبعا. فانتجت حكايه كم طاشر حلقه مع ناس. في 21 جات الفكره بتاعت انه يا اخي الشارع ده ما كله كنداكات، الثوره دي قايمين بيها البنات اكثر بشديد وقاعدين يقدموا تضحيات، طيب نحن نساعدهم كيف؟ خصوصا ربطت الحاجه دي مع الوضع الاقتصادي بتاعت البلد وتوجه الدوله نحو صندوق النقد الدولي واثار وغيره وكده. فقلت خلاص انا احارب الراسماليه، فبالتالي انا اقوم ادعم صغار المنتجين من البنات. فسميت البرنامج اسمه بأيديهن، بأيدي ناعمة. فكان حاجة كويسة جدا، استضفت فيه يعني أكثر من 15 ل 20 بيت، أي واحدة بتحكي عن برنامجها شنو في الهاند ميد زي الاكسسوري دي، وفي واحدين بعملوا الفغار وأشياء كثيرة جميلة جدا. عدد برضو من الحلقات ونالت إعجاب الناس. فنحن مشكلتنا إنه بنحاول ننتظر إنه تجينا حاجة وبعد ذاك الرزق الأمني وعدم المعرفة ذاته بالقنوات والطريقة الصحيحة. شكرا.
All right, thanks everybody. We're going to continue this conversation in the afternoon, but we're now going to move into story and filmmaking. So patience, please.
The time is running out real quick. I'm just going to ask everybody to stand up for this. It's going to be really, really quick. And what I want is maybe, ideally I wanted everyone to tell me what they did before they came here, but I will start with my neighbor just to give you an idea. What did you do today before you came here in the morning?
I drink up. Yeah. And I was worried because I was without battery, but I woke up, I washed myself, I got some perfume of Palo Santo, I rocked my jewelries and my clothes. Then I was drinking, I was in the restaurant nearby the house that I'm staying and drink tea, ginger tea.
Yes, also I woke up around 6:30 and I wrote like 1.5 hours my books consist of human rights violations, and I have Bosera. And after that, I come here. I have a little bit of a banana with coffee. Thank you.
Okay, so how we're gonna do it? I'm gonna give you 1 minute to talk to your neighbor about what you did this morning. Tell your neighbor what you did this morning. It can be a pair of 3 or 2. Just tell them what you did this morning from when you woke up. So today when I woke up, I was so tired. And it took me such a long time to wake up. I woke up, I went to sleep again. Then I woke up and showered and got here. I was worried I was late. Then I got here. I had so many meetings to do today. But because of what's happening here, I canceled everything because I was excited. Thanks to your film. Okay, time out, time out, time out, time out, time out. How did it feel after doing that? Do you want to hear more from your neighbor? Do you want to hear more from whoever you're talking to? Have you heard what they did or said? It's okay, but did you understand anything they said? You just told your first story. You just told your first story. Okay, so yeah, okay, let's sit down, let's sit down. Yeah, so you just told your first story, guys. What I'm going to talk about here is what is a good story. We've been talking about we are not able to make stories because of where we come from. Hey guys, we ended this. Wow, that's a nice story up there. But we're back here. But the whole exercise was to show you are a story. Your neighbor is a story. It's not about not having money. It's not about not having support. It's not about what you have or don't have. It is the idea. Stories are, what do you love doing? I had a poet Someone said they're a poet. I would love to film them say they're a poet, their expressions. We watched LK's films. We felt connected to them. It's a local story with global impact. Literally, I came up with that after watching your film, by the way. It's a local story with global impact.
I will use in the next grant this phrase.
But the story connected to us, and LK didn't know he would be here when he was making this story, but it spoke so much to all of us, hearing the questions that you're asking. So it's not about how much money you have, how limited you are, what does not define you. There's people who are enjoying. There's riots happening. There's people drinking and chewing mirror. Those are stories, you know. You're here as a community. You all have stories. I mean, I have a story about going out and just like not wanting to drink. Then I come back. I would love to see that story because everybody does that, you know. I don't want us to take us so far away, but I just wanted to remind you that we have the stories. We're just not looking in the direction that we have to look at. And before I pass my microphone to LK, because the stories that we saw today have so much to show that with limited resources, you can still tell so much. The way I describe storytelling or an idea, you can be a lawyer and you can still make films. You know, you love Bushera. Is Bushera from Sudan? No. That's an amazing story. You're in Uganda, you love, you know, maybe it's there, but it's all the things we do that connect us to each other, you know. The way I describe a story, I always close my eyes. I imagine falling in love. I love this person so much. Am I ready to go on a journey with them? Maybe I'll date them for a couple of more years to decide whether I want to get married or not. And then when I get married, I want to get married, definitely, at some point, and then have a child. And then after having a child, I want to give birth to this child. I want to give birth to this story. I want to take care of this child. After taking care of this child, I want to see this child graduate. So that's the process of making films, whether it's documentary, whether it's films, but you have to take care of that child and you have to identify what stories you want to tell, what makes you happy. Do you want to be married to someone you don't love and you just want to get married? No. So you're not going to rush to make an idea about, let's say, marriage or life itself, but what do you understand life to be as a poet, as a filmmaker, as a lawyer, as a camera person? So when you think about story, don't think big. Think about the things around you. Identify the topic. What do you want to tell? Do you want to tell a story about your hair? Do you want to tell a story about your eyes? Guys, it's so dope. You watch a 2-minute story and it's about eyes and you're like, oh, I've seen so many different eyes, but there's a story to tell in the eyes. It's very small to that level. And the more you express yourself in the story, regardless of sharing competitions, sharing stories, it will send the message because you tell it from the heart. So once you identify a topic that you want to tell, it doesn't have to be so big. It doesn't have to be so big. It can be about a book. You're like, I came from Sudan with a book and a pen. I'm with a book. I'm in a workshop. I have a book and a pen. And this book is literally telling us stories. I like using basic examples that are not so complex, but everybody has this. Once you find the idea, then you tell a story of what do you want this story to tell. It becomes an idea to a topic, then to the message you want your friend. You don't have to say, I want the audience to feel this. No. This is how I feel when I'm making this story. This is how LK felt. He had different feelings when he was telling his story, but the impact of that story goes so much beyond. Are we together, guys? Tuko pamoja? Hey, are we together? Okay, that's in a nutshell, and we can share more about storytelling and how you identify an idea when we go in the one-on-ones because time is limited. But I want to give LK this chance to talk more in depth about, like I'll just use one story. I'll use the one, the one for the pictures because it has limited resources with so much reach, you know? It has archive, it has, as you said, guys, you can even go back to your home album and tell a story of yourself. All right, guys, I'm passing on to LK to share a bit more. You have exactly 10 minutes.
Yes.
Trevor, is it 10? How?
No, be quickly.
Okay. Trevor, time check. 10? Okay, 10. I'm 10.
Okay. Everyone watched the film that I screened earlier? I think there's some people who are just right now here. So the film that I screened here is called Mutirão. Is made by with old pictures of my neighborhood, and my niece narrates the films, you know. And just as you say, for me, I always think my stories doesn't matter if it's documentary or fiction. Right now, I really don't know if I make fiction or documentary. You know, for me, it's like the same thing, and I call it magic. I do magic, and because I really just walk by my door and start to film, you know, with my friends, with my family, and we start to pretend that we are something else, you know, like my niece likes to film herself, so one day we kept an idea that she was a little witch, and we start to do her fantasy, and we start to do some special effects of she is flying around our house, you know, and she wants to record this. And I never used this, but like we shot like 5 years ago this image, and 5 years later I used in a film, you know, not in this film, but in another film. So for me, this chance to connect like with my surround, you know, to see my neighborhood and to portray my neighborhood as a complex place, but as an important place of preservation. Because like in the favelas, just a little contest, in the favelas, our housing changed a lot, you know, our surround, you know, like a wall. We have like big fires, like floating. So our ambience is changing a lot. So for me, portray this and create this, I don't know how to call this, like this image, like portray this same image through the times, you know, that we can see like, oh, this wall looks like this, you know, like 20 years ago, like 10 years ago, you know. I became like kind of obsessed, because always when I come back to my hood, like if any light changed in the street, I was like, oh, I want to film like this change, you know. So we create like a continuous museum of our place. So these little stories it's so important, because they are not little at all, you know, because they are stories that we connect with ourselves, you know, every time, because we are sometimes so trying to portray like the big picture, you know, from outside, and we deny that it's impossible for us to be outside. It's impossible for anyone, you know, like people try, because this is why they stole like the stories, but it's impossible for us like to be outside.
Yeah, no, like with that example as well, the thing that I keep saying is find out what conversations do you have. Stories, not necessarily filming a picture and getting the audio and getting sound and then editing. There's also something that's called podcasts. The way sometimes now people are doing and narrating stories and having conversational storytelling, but there's so much beyond just sitting and having an interview, but getting to tell a story from one image to another.
No, I have a quick example for this. We are producing a podcast. It's like a futuristic podcast, ambient in my hood, you know. We call like Hungry Speaks. You know, it's about two people who are hungry. One guy is in the jail, and his friend is in the hood, and they start to communicate with their cell phones, and they try like, oh, we didn't see each other a long time, and they find let's see each other in our imagination, and they just imagine this future hood and start to meet each other like, and it was impossible for me doing this in film because it was so expensive, because we have like futurist effects, but in audio it was perfect. And we distribute in WhatsApp, it is on Spotify and all these platforms, so just to kick like, it's a way to tell stories too.
And I'm just going to ask for one small thing as a wind up. It's an exercise that I'm giving you that you have to share with me as a must when you're meeting me after lunch. You just tell 30-second story. How many have smartphones? It can be a group exercise, guys. You can just make one 30 seconds story. Tell a story for 30 seconds. Let's say 1 minute as a group. I'm not going to divide you guys, but I need all of you to present a 1 minute story that you've come up with each other. You can work with objects, you can work with pens, you can work with everything. An idea of a story that you have. It could be voice-led, it could be done by pictures, just from your surroundings. Yeah, just help me present a short story through images for 1 minute. I'm here for consultation. Because we don't have time, I'm going to end this session now. And in case you have more questions, we are all still here. But when we come back to the next session or done, you show me your 1 minute story. Yeah? Do you have anything else to add? Because we are done now. We're done. I'm letting you go. We're all good? Guys, let's stand up. You look confused. Are we together? Eh? Yeah? Are you scared? Okay, we are breaking now.
Yeah, you guys, I'm sorry, we don't have any food for you, which is going to be hard. We're trying to arrange something. There's a couple eggs over there if you're very hungry, or if you want, you can go downstairs and grab something and bring it back. But probably in hopefully an hour, we'll have some snacks. So apologize for that. But yeah, hang out. We're going to have the next session about 15, 20 minutes. Meet people, shake hands, have a good time. See you soon.
Thank you.